Jake Morrison walked through the golden wheat fields of New Haven Colony and smiled at what they had built. The morning sun painted the rolling hills in warm light, while a gentle breeze carried the sweet smell of grain, ready for harvest. 15 years ago, this planet had been nothing but empty grassland and wild forests. Now it fed dozens of human colonies scattered across the outer rim of known space. The communication tower on the hill behind him buzzed with quiet activity as Dr. Lisa Grant checked the daily reports from Earth and the other settlements. Jake could see her through the tower's windows, her red hair catching the sunlight as she bent over her console. Every morning, she made sure all the quantum relay networks were working properly and that New Haven stayed connected to the rest of human civilization. 12,000 people called this place home now. They were farmers mostly, along with engineers and mechanics who kept the equipment running. Their children played in the streets of Haven City, the main settlement built around the original landing site. The kids had never known any world except this peaceful planet where the biggest worry was whether the harvest would be good or if the weather might delay the supply ships. Captain Ryan Brooks jogged past Jake on his morning patrol route. The security chief kept himself in excellent shape, even though there had never been any real danger on New Haven. The most exciting thing that happened in his job was breaking up the occasional bar fight or helping search for lost livestock. Ryan always said it was better to be ready for trouble that never came than to be caught unprepared when it did. Jake agreed with that philosophy, which was why New Haven had a small security force and basic defense systems. Not because they expected to use them, but because it made sense to be careful. The galaxy was a big place, and humans were still newcomers to the interstellar community. Most of the alien species they had met were friendly enough, but Jake had read the reports from Earth about some of the less pleasant civilizations out there. The Galactic Cooperative kept the peace between member species, but there were always groups that operated outside the law. Pirates, slavers, and aggressive empires that saw weaker civilizations as opportunities rather than neighbors. Humanity had joined the cooperative 50 years ago, but they were still considered a minor species by most of the galaxy. Their small fleet of exploration and cargo ships looked pathetic compared to the massive warships that some aliens built. Jake walked back toward the administration building where his assistant, Maria Santos, was already preparing for the day's meetings. They had harvest schedules to review and shipping arrangements to finalize with the transport companies. 3 cargo ships were due to arrive next week to pick up grain bound for the mining colonies in the Centauri sector. The work was routine but important. New Haven produced enough food to support nearly 1 million people across 20 different worlds. Without steady supplies from agricultural planets like this one, the expansion of human civilization would grind to a halt. Jake took pride in knowing that his colony played a vital role in humanity's future among the stars. Dr. Lisa Grant's voice crackled over the communication system that connected all the major buildings in Haven City. "Jake, could you come up to the tower? I'm getting some unusual readings on the long-range sensors." Jake changed direction and headed for the hill. Lisa was the best communications officer in the outer colonies, recruited directly from Earth's Deep Space Monitoring program. If she thought something was worth looking at, Jake wanted to know about it immediately. The communication tower stood 60 meters tall, bristling with quantum relay dishes and sensor arrays that could detect ships or signals from several light years away. Jake climbed the stairs to the main control room where Lisa was frowning at her displays. "What do you have?" Jake asked. "Movement at the edge of the system," Lisa replied, pointing to a cluster of dots on her screen. 5, maybe 6 large objects, coming in fast from the direction of the Vega sector. They're not responding to standard identification requests. Jake felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Ships that didn't identify themselves were usually either pirates or worse. "How long until they reach us?" "At their current speed, about 6 hours, Lisa said. "But Jake, these aren't small raider ships. The sensor readings suggest vessels in the cruiser class or larger. This is a full military fleet." Jake grabbed the communication headset and switched to the security frequency. "Ryan, get up to the tower immediately. We have incoming ships and they don't look friendly." Within minutes, Captain Ryan Brooks was studying the sensor data with them. His expression grew grimmer as he analyzed the fleet's formation and approach vector. "This is a conquest fleet," he said finally. "They're coming in battle formation and they're not slowing down for negotiations." "Who are they?" Jake asked. Lisa worked frantically at her console, trying to match the sensor signatures with known ship designs in the database. After several tense minutes, she found a match. "Vorthon hegemony," she said quietly. Ryan cursed under his breath. The Vorthons were one of the more aggressive species in this region of space. They had a reputation for enslaving weaker civilizations and stripping their worlds of resources. Several smaller colonies had vanished after Vorthon fleets visited them. "Why would they come here?" Jake asked. "We're members of the Galactic Cooperative. Attacking us would bring sanctions." "The Cooperative has no enforcement arm," Ryan replied grimly. "Their strongly worded letters don't mean much to species that decide they want what you have." Jake looked out the window at the peaceful fields and the town where families were going about their normal morning routines. In 6 hours, enemy warships would be in orbit above them. New Haven had a few defensive platforms and some security personnel, but nothing that could stand against a military fleet. "Options?" Jake asked. Ryan shook his head. "We can't fight them. Our best bet is to evacuate as many people as possible before they arrive. But there's no way to get everyone off planet in time." Lisa looked up from her console. "The emergency beacon is ready. I can send a distress signal to Earth and all the other colonies. But help won't arrive for days even if they send ships immediately." Jake stared at the approaching fleet on the sensor display. 12,000 innocent people were depending on him to protect them, and he was running out of time and options. The Vorthons would be here soon, and once they landed, the peaceful life that New Haven had built would be over. He made his decision. "Send the signal," Jake told Lisa. "Broadcast on all frequencies. Tell them New Haven Colony is under attack, and we need immediate assistance." As Lisa's fingers flew over her controls, Jake watched the Vorthon fleet grow larger on the sensors. Somewhere out there in the darkness of space, he hoped someone was listening who could help them. But for now, all they could do was prepare for the worst and pray that their SOS would reach friendly ears in time. Admiral Kate Sullivan was reviewing budget reports in her office on Luna Station when the priority alert flashed across her screen. The quantum relay network carried signals faster than any ship could travel, and the emergency beacon from New Haven Colony reached Earth in just 4 hours. Kate read the message twice before the full meaning hit her. New Haven was under attack by a Vorthon fleet. 12,000 civilians needed help, and they needed it now. Kate had been waiting for this moment for 23 years, not hoping for it, but preparing for it. Ever since humanity first learned about the hostile species that lurked in the galaxy, Earth's leadership had made a difficult decision. They would present themselves as peaceful farmers and traders while secretly building the most powerful military force in known space. The emergency protocols activated automatically as soon as Kate confirmed the threat. Across the Sol system, hidden transmitters began broadcasting coded messages to sleeper agents and disguised military installations. What looked like ordinary cargo depots and mining stations suddenly revealed their true purpose as weapons, and ships emerged from concealment. Dr. Aaron Kim received the activation signal in his laboratory beneath the surface of Ceres. For 15 years, he had overseen the Prometheus Defense Initiative, humanity's most classified military project. His team had reverse-engineered alien technology and combined it with human innovation to create weapons and ships that no other species had ever seen. The deception had been perfect. Alien visitors to human space saw exactly what they expected to see: a young civilization focused on agriculture and peaceful expansion. They never suspected that the innocent-looking cargo containers being loaded onto transport ships contained military supplies, or that the civilian crews had all received extensive combat training. Commander Ben Martinez was eating breakfast on what appeared to be a routine freight hauler when his ship's real identity was revealed. External panels slid away to expose weapon batteries and sensor arrays as the UHS Retribution shed its disguise. Around him, 30 other ships in the convoy did the same thing, transforming from harmless cargo vessels into sleek warships, bristling with advanced technology. Ben had commanded merchant ships for 8 years, always knowing that someday he might need to drop the pretense and become a military officer. That day had finally arrived. His crew moved with practiced efficiency as they brought weapons online and prepared for combat operations. Every person aboard had trained for this moment. Similar transformations were happening throughout human space. Mining platforms revealed themselves as battle stations. Research facilities launched squadrons of fighters that had been hidden in underground hangars. Even some of the peaceful agricultural colonies activated defense systems that had been carefully concealed beneath farms and forests. The galaxy's intelligence networks went into overdrive as reports flooded in about humanity's secret military buildup. Species that had dismissed humans as harmless farmers suddenly found themselves trying to understand how such a massive deception had been possible. The answer was simple. Humans were very good at hiding their true capabilities when necessary. Admiral Kate Sullivan boarded her flagship, the UHS Defiance, which had been disguised as a space construction platform in orbit around Mars. The massive vessel was larger than most alien dreadnoughts, but its weapons were far more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen before. Human engineers had studied every piece of alien technology they could acquire and found ways to improve upon it. Captain Nick Taylor commanded one of the smaller ships in the fleet, a destroyer called the UHS Storm Chaser that had been masquerading as a deep space research vessel. His ship was built for speed and maneuverability rather than heavy firepower, designed to exploit the tactical advantages that came from humanity's willingness to take calculated risks. The human fleet that assembled in response to New Haven's distress call consisted of over 300 vessels of various sizes and capabilities. Some were massive battleships capable of trading fire with entire enemy fleets. Others were fast attack craft designed to strike quickly and disappear before retaliation could be organized. All of them incorporated technology and tactics that no alien military had ever encountered. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster served as tactical officer aboard the cruiser UHS Vengeance. She had grown up in the harsh environment of northern Canada, where survival meant learning to adapt quickly to changing conditions. That same flexibility served her well in military planning, as she could process multiple combat scenarios simultaneously and adjust tactics in real time. The human approach to warfare was fundamentally different from what most alien species used. Where others relied on overwhelming firepower or impenetrable defenses, humans emphasized speed, deception, and rapid adaptation. Their ships were designed to fight in ways that would seem reckless or impossible to alien commanders who preferred predictable battle formations. As the fleet prepared to depart for New Haven, Admiral Kate Sullivan reviewed the intelligence reports about Vorthan military capabilities. The enemy had superior numbers and their individual ships were larger than most human vessels. But the Vorthans fought according to rigid doctrines that had served them well against other alien species. They had never faced an opponent that could change tactics as quickly as humans could. Dr. Aaron Kim's research had identified several key weaknesses in Vorthan ship design and battle formations. Their heavy reliance on energy shields made them vulnerable to certain types of projectile weapons that humans had developed specifically for this purpose. Their command structure was hierarchical and inflexible, which meant that disrupting their leadership could cause their entire fleet to lose coordination. Commander Ben Martinez plotted jump coordinates for the journey to New Haven, while his crew ran final checks on their weapons and systems. The trip would take 18 hours using the fastest hyperspace routes, assuming their ships could handle the stress of traveling at maximum speed for such a long distance. Most alien vessels would consider such a journey extremely dangerous, but human ships were built to operate beyond normal safety margins when necessary. The secret was finally out. After decades of careful planning and preparation, humanity was about to reveal its true military strength to the galaxy. The peaceful farmers and traders were gone, replaced by something far more dangerous. A species that had spent millions of years learning to survive on one of the most hostile planets in known space. As the fleet entered hyperspace toward New Haven Colony, Admiral Kate Sullivan knew that the galaxy was about to discover what happened when someone threatened the children of Earth. The SOS signal had awakened something that had been sleeping in the darkness between the stars. And now, the Vorthan hegemony would learn why humans called their homeworld a Deathworld. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster stood at her tactical station aboard the UHS Vengeance, and watched the star patterns shift as they traveled through hyperspace toward New Haven Colony. Her fingers moved across the control interface with practiced ease as she ran combat simulations and analyzed Vorthon fleet formations. Growing up in the frozen wilderness of northern Alaska had taught her to process multiple threats simultaneously while staying calm under pressure that would break most people. Amy remembered the winter when she was 12 years old and a blizzard had trapped her family in their cabin for 6 days. The power had failed on the second day, and the temperature inside dropped below freezing. While her younger brother panicked and her parents struggled with equipment failures, Amy had methodically worked through their survival options and organized their limited resources. That same analytical thinking now helped her devise battle tactics that could exploit enemy weaknesses. Captain Nick Taylor pushed his destroyer UHS Storm Chaser through hyperspace at speeds that would terrify most alien navigators. The ship's hull groaned under the stress of traveling beyond recommended safety limits, but Nick had grown up racing boats through the dangerous waters off the coast of Maine. He understood that sometimes you had to risk everything to save what mattered most. His crew trusted him completely because they knew he would never ask them to take risks he wouldn't take himself. The human ships used their journey time to prepare for a battle unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. While alien fleets typically relied on massive firepower or impenetrable defenses, human vessels were designed around the concept of controlled chaos. Their tactics emphasized rapid movement, unexpected angles of attack, and the ability to adapt instantly when situations changed. Commander Ben Martinez studied the sensor data from New Haven Colony while his ship raced through the void. The reports showed that Vorthon forces had already landed on the planet and begun establishing occupation zones around the major population centers. What the aliens didn't realize was that they were dealing with humans who had inherited survival instincts forged over millions of years on one of the most dangerous planets in known space. Back on New Haven, Jake Morrison proved that even civilian humans possessed remarkable resilience when threatened. After the Vorthon fleet had destroyed the orbital defense platforms and landed troops in Haven City, Jake had evacuated as many colonists as possible into the surrounding countryside. Now he led a growing resistance movement that used guerrilla tactics learned from Earth's long history of warfare. The Vorthons had expected to find frightened farmers who would submit quickly to superior force. Instead, they encountered organized resistance cells that struck without warning and melted away before retaliation could be organized. Jake's people used their intimate knowledge of the terrain to set up ambush points in the forests and canyons that surrounded the agricultural zones. Dr. Lisa Grant had managed to escape the initial assault on the communication tower and now coordinated supply drops to the resistance fighters from hidden bunkers scattered across the continent. Her background in quantum communications allowed her to maintain contact with the approaching human fleet, while simultaneously organizing intelligence-gathering operations that tracked every movement of the occupation forces. The Vorthon soldiers were discovering that humans were much more dangerous than their peaceful reputation suggested. Every farm building could contain hidden weapons caches. Every colonist who appeared to be cooperating might be gathering intelligence for the resistance. The alien troops found themselves constantly on edge as they tried to control a population that refused to be controlled. Captain Ryan Brooks had avoided capture during the initial landing by leading his security teams into the wilderness where they could organize more effective resistance operations. His military training from Earth's Colonial Defense Academy now proved its worth as he taught civilian volunteers how to construct improvised explosives and set up communication networks that the Vorthons couldn't detect. The key to human success lay in their fundamental nature as survivors from a death world. Earth had produced a species that could adapt to almost any environment and find ways to turn disadvantages into advantages. Where other civilizations might surrender when faced with overwhelming odds, humans became more dangerous and unpredictable. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster finished her tactical analysis and began preparing attack plans that would maximize the element of surprise. Human ships were smaller and individually less powerful than Vorthon vessels, but they could operate in formations and environments that alien commanders would consider suicidal. The humans planned to use asteroid fields, debris zones, and gravitational anomalies as tactical advantages rather than obstacles to avoid. Captain Nick Taylor's destroyer had been specifically designed to exploit these dangerous environments. His ship could maneuver through spaces too tight for larger vessels and use its superior speed to attack from unexpected directions. The Storm Chaser's crew had trained extensively in high-risk navigation techniques that would allow them to strike targets that seemed impossible to reach. The approaching human fleet represented something entirely new in galactic warfare. Other species built their military forces around the concept of overwhelming their enemies with superior technology or numbers. Humans had taken a different approach, creating a military that emphasized the unpredictable nature of Deathworld, survivors who had learned to win against impossible odds. Commander Ben Martinez reviewed the fleet's formation as they prepared to exit hyperspace near New Haven. Admiral Kate Sullivan had organized the attack to take advantage of humanity's greatest strength, their ability to coordinate complex operations while allowing individual commanders the freedom to adapt their tactics as circumstances changed. The Vorthon war leader Thax was about to learn why the galaxy classified Earth as a death world. It wasn't just because of the planet's extreme environments or dangerous wildlife. It was because Earth had produced a species that became more lethal when threatened, more creative under pressure, and more determined when protecting those they cared about. As the human fleet prepared to drop out of hyperspace, the resistance fighters on New Haven received a coded message from Dr. Lisa Grant. Help was finally coming, and the Vorthons were about to discover that they had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened something ancient and dangerous in humanity, the protective instincts of a species that had survived everything their hostile homeworld could throw at them. The SOS signal had done more than call for help. It had summoned the fury of an entire civilization that would not allow their children to be enslaved by anyone. The Vorthon fleet hung in orbit around New Haven like a pack of metal predators, confident in their superiority over what they believed was a small rescue force heading their way. War leader Thax studied the sensor readings from his flagship and felt satisfied with his conquest. The human colony below was proving more troublesome than expected, but his warriors would eventually crush all resistance. The approaching ships would be destroyed easily, and then the hegemony would have a new source of agricultural slaves. Admiral Kate Sullivan's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at 17 different points around the New Haven system, appearing in a coordinated pattern that immediately disrupted Vorthon formation plans. The human ships emerged from the void like ghosts materializing from darkness, their weapons already charging and their crews ready for battle. Commander Ben Martinez brought the UHS Retribution out of hyperspace directly behind the Vorthon rear guard, his massive dreadnought appearing where no ship should have been able to navigate safely. The alien commanders had positioned their fleet assuming that any attacking force would approach from the system's main hyperspace entry point. They never considered that humans might risk jumping into gravitational fields that could tear a ship apart. Captain Nick Taylor's destroyer Storm Chaser materialized inside an asteroid field that the Vorthons had dismissed as impassable. His ship wove between the tumbling rocks with precision that seemed impossible to alien observers who preferred clear space for their battles. Nick had grown up navigating treacherous coastal waters where a single mistake meant death, and that experience now served him well as he positioned his vessel for a surprise attack. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster analyzed the developing battle situation from her station aboard the UHS Vengeance and immediately began adapting the fleet's tactics to exploit gaps in the enemy formation. The Vorthons were trying to reorganize their ships into their preferred battle line formation, but the humans weren't giving them time to complete the maneuver. Instead of engaging in the formal dance of fleet combat that most alien species practiced, the human ships struck from multiple directions simultaneously. War leader Thax realized with growing alarm that he was facing something entirely outside his experience. The human vessels moved in patterns that violated every principle of proper fleet tactics. They used debris fields and gravitational anomalies as cover, rather than obstacles to avoid. Their attack formations changed constantly, making it impossible to predict where the next strike would come from. Captain Ryan Brooks watched the battle begin from his hidden position in the forests of New Haven and felt his heart surge with hope. He had escaped capture during the initial landing and now coordinated with the resistance cells that Jake Morrison had organized across the continent. Ryan activated a coded transmitter that would provide the human fleet with real-time intelligence about Vorthan troop movements and defensive positions. The first exchange of fire lit up space around New Haven as human weapons struck Vorthan shields, with devastating effect. Dr. Aaron Kim's research teams had spent years analyzing alien defensive technology and developing projectile weapons specifically designed to penetrate energy barriers. The Vorthan ships found their shields failing under impacts they had never encountered before. Commander Ben Martinez led his dreadnought straight into the heart of the enemy formation, his ship's advanced armor deflecting return fire, while his weapons systematically destroyed Vorthan cruisers. The Retribution had been built to survive in close combat, where most ships would be torn apart, and Ben used that durability to devastating effect as he carved through the alien battle line. Captain Nick Taylor's destroyer emerged from the asteroid field like a striking snake, his ship's torpedo tubes launching a devastating salvo at the Vorthan command vessel before disappearing back into the rocks. The storm chasers' hit-and-run tactics confused the alien gunners who couldn't track a target that refused to stay in one place long enough to be properly targeted. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster coordinated the complex dance of human ships as they exploited every weakness in the Vorthan formation. Her tactical displays showed friendly vessels weaving through enemy fire while maintaining perfect communication and coordination. The humans fought like a pack of wolves, each ship supporting the others while striking at vulnerable targets. Dr. Lisa Grant maintained communication links between the fleet and the resistance fighters on the planet below, providing crucial intelligence that allowed the space battle and ground operations to work together. Her quantum relay systems had been hidden too well for the Vorthans to locate, giving the humans a decisive advantage in coordination and information sharing. The Vorthan fleet began to lose cohesion as their rigid command structure struggled to adapt to the chaotic nature of human tactics. Their ships were individually more powerful than most human vessels, but they had been designed to fight formal battles against opponents who followed predictable patterns. The humans refused to cooperate with those expectations. War leader Thax ordered his ships to concentrate their fire on the largest human vessel, hoping to destroy Admiral Kate Sullivan's flagship and disrupt the enemy's coordination. The Vorthans unleashed everything they had at the UHS Defiance, but the massive ship's shields and armor held against the barrage while return fire crippled 2 alien cruisers. Jake Morrison's resistance fighters chose that moment to launch coordinated attacks on Vorthan ground installations, using improvised explosives and captured weapons to strike at supply depots and communication centers. The timing was perfect, as the alien forces on the planet found themselves under attack just as their space fleet was being systematically destroyed above them. The battle reached its climax when Captain Nick Taylor made a desperate run at the Vorthan command ship, using his destroyer's superior maneuverability to penetrate their defensive screen. The storm chaser took heavy damage as it closed distance, but Nick's crew managed to deliver a crippling torpedo strike that knocked out the alien flagship's command systems. With their leadership disrupted and their formation collapsing, the Vorthan fleet began to break apart. Some ships tried to retreat while others fought on independently, but without coordination they were easy targets for the human wolves that hunted them through space. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the enemy fleet scatter and knew that humanity had won its first major space battle. But more importantly, they had sent a message to the galaxy that would change everything. The peaceful farmers and traders were gone, replaced by something far more dangerous. The awakened fury of Earth's children defending their own. The wreckage of the Vorthan fleet drifted through space around New Haven Colony, like broken teeth scattered across the void. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched the final enemy vessels surrender or flee into hyperspace. The battle was over and humanity had won, but she knew this victory would change everything in ways that no one could fully predict. Ambassador Claire Watson received emergency communication requests from 17 different alien governments within 6 hours of the battle's end. Her office on Luna Station became the center of frantic diplomatic activity as species throughout the galaxy suddenly realized they needed to completely reassess their understanding of human capabilities. The Krovar Empire, which had been considering expansion into human space, quietly canceled their military exercises near the border. Dr. Aaron Kim's research teams began analyzing the captured Vorthan technology, while medical crews treated the wounded from both sides. The alien ships contained advanced systems that human engineers had never seen before, but Kim was amazed at how quickly his people could understand and improve upon the foreign designs. Human adaptability extended beyond combat tactics into the realm of technological integration. Down on New Haven's surface, Jake Morrison walked through the ruins of Haven City with a mixture of sadness and determination. The Vorthan occupation had damaged many buildings and disrupted the carefully planned infrastructure of the colony, but the people had survived. More importantly, they had proven to themselves and the galaxy that humans would not be conquered easily. Captain Ryan Brooks coordinated the cleanup operations as his security teams helped round up the remaining Vorthan soldiers who had surrendered after their fleet was destroyed. Many of the alien warriors seemed genuinely shocked that they had been defeated by what they had assumed was a primitive agricultural settlement. They had underestimated not just human military capabilities, but the fierce determination that came from defending home and family. Dr. Lisa Grant re-established full communication links with Earth and the other human colonies, sending detailed reports about the battle and its aftermath. Her quantum relay networks buzzed with activity as governments and military commands throughout human space tried to understand the implications of their sudden emergence as a major galactic power. The reaction from other species was swift and dramatic. The peaceful trading partners who had known humans as friendly farmers and merchants now scrambled to understand how such an elaborate deception had been possible. Some aliens felt betrayed by the revelation that humanity had been hiding such massive military capabilities, while others expressed admiration for the strategic thinking involved. Emperor Vex of the Krovar Empire personally reviewed combat footage from the New Haven battle, studying the way human ships had moved and fought. His military advisors pointed out that human tactics violated most of the established principles of space warfare, but they had clearly been effective against the Vorthans. The Emperor quietly ordered his intelligence services to gather more information about human military capabilities. Commander Ben Martinez supervised the salvage operations as his crew collected useful technology from the destroyed Vorthan vessels. The enemy ships had been larger and more heavily armed than most human vessels, but their rigid design philosophy had made them vulnerable to creative tactics. Ben's engineers were already proposing modifications to human ships based on what they had learned from the battle. Captain Nick Taylor brought his damaged destroyer back to New Haven's orbital shipyards for repairs, proud of his crew's performance during the desperate attack on the Vorthan flagship. The Storm Chaser had taken significant damage during the battle, but the ship's innovative design had allowed it to survive hits that would have destroyed most alien vessels of similar size. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster compiled detailed tactical reports about the battle for distribution to other human commanders throughout the galaxy. Her analysis showed that the key to victory had been the fleet's ability to coordinate complex maneuvers while allowing individual captains the freedom to adapt their tactics as circumstances changed. No alien military had ever seen anything like the controlled chaos that human forces could create and manage. The political consequences of the battle rippled through the galaxy as smaller species realized that humanity might be able to protect them from aggressive neighbors. Ambassador Claire Watson found herself negotiating mutual defense agreements with civilizations that had previously been too afraid to resist stronger empires. The human fleet had become the backbone of a new coalition dedicated to protecting peaceful species. War leader Thax, now a prisoner aboard the UHS Retribution, struggled to understand how his superior fleet had been defeated so completely. He had commanded Vorthan forces for 30 years and had never encountered opponents who could adapt their tactics so quickly or fight in such unpredictable ways. His interrogation sessions with human intelligence officers revealed the fundamental differences between Vorthan and human approaches to warfare. Jake Morrison began planning the reconstruction of New Haven with help from engineering teams that had arrived with the relief fleet. The colony would be rebuilt stronger than before, with defensive systems that were no longer hidden beneath the facade of peaceful agriculture. New Haven would serve as a symbol of human resilience and a warning to anyone who might threaten innocent civilians. Dr. Aaron Kim received approval to establish permanent research facilities on New Haven, where his teams could study captured alien technology while developing new weapons and defenses. The planet's strategic location made it an ideal base for monitoring potential threats from hostile species while maintaining the appearance of a normal agricultural colony. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about underestimating humanity. The species that had seemed like harmless farmers and traders had revealed themselves to be something far more dangerous. The children of a death world who had inherited millions of years of survival instincts and the determination to protect their own at any cost. Dr. Lisa Grant sent a final message across the quantum relay network, broadcasting on frequencies that every civilization in the galaxy could receive. It was not a desperate SOS like the one that had started everything, but a calm declaration that humanity stood ready to defend not just their own colonies, but any peaceful species threatened by those who mistook diplomacy for weakness. The SOS, that had awakened the unstoppable Deathworlder fleet, had become something much more powerful. A promise that Earth's children would answer the call whenever justice needed defenders. The galaxy would never be the same again, and humanity had taken its place among the stars not as victims, but as protectors of those who could not protect themselves.